Disclaimer: the story takes place in South Korea, but the anime is centered around Japan. In a society where popularity equals respect, our protagonist, a high school kid named Hobin, is at the lower end of the hierarchy. A true fucking loser, he is mocked by his peers over and over, with a famous streamer in his class named Pakugo, even using his embarrassment to gain views. After another humiliating experience with the streamer, Hobin rushes to the bathroom where he breaks down. The unfairness of society hits him like a truck as he realizes that although Pakugo sucks at academics, he is able to earn more than enough money through YouTube, his streaming platform, while another girl in his class is able to do the same just because she has good looks. Viewing himself in the mirror with a disgust and horror, he accepts that he possesses none of the qualities to ever become famous. On returning back to class, he is attacked by Pakugo's cameraman, Snapper, who screams at our protagonist for not smiling during the stream. The boy falls to the ground helplessly, not even attempting to defend himself. Jeez, what a fucking wimp. He then overhears a conversation between Pakugo and the cute girl in class as they discuss how they have earned 30,000 won simply from their lunchtime stream together. He is shocked at such a huge number, as is Snapper, who asked the man about the requirements for earning from streaming. Upon learning that he would need his parents' bank details as he is a minor, Snapper once again bullies Hobin into giving up his mother's bank account so they can start earning too. Our protagonist is deeply hurt by this as his mother has cancer and has been hospitalized for a long time. After school, he pays her a visit and she immediately notices his crumpled uniform and asks if he was in a fight. Not wishing to worry her, he lies. He then pays the expensive hospital bills while recalling how this amount could easily have been earned in a matter of minutes if only he was a famous streamer. However, he is forced to work a part-time job at a local restaurant where his week's wages are equal to how much Pakugo earns from a lunchtime stream. Hobin's gloomy thoughts are pushed to a side for a bit as his attractive co-worker named Bomi approaches him to ask for some help. Just talking to her improves his mood, but this does not last for long as his sworn enemy, Pakugo, enters the restaurant while streaming. He reaches the counter and informs Bomi that his subscribers wish to see her make a burger in 30 seconds, and if she is unable to do so, she has to give him her number. Obviously, she is taken aback by this bold offer, and Hobin is even more horrified. He begins racking his brains with a way to come to her rescue, and eventually a light bulb goes off next to his head. In only 30 seconds, he manages to prepare the burger and present it to Pakugo while gasping for air and requesting him to leave the restaurant as he is disturbing the rest of the customers. Bomi views him with appreciation as he then gets back to work. After this blatant show of defiance, Hobin goes back into his shell, as on his return back home, he gives permission to Snapper to stream a video game at his place while even preparing a bowl of ramen for his bully. As he brings the meal to Snapper, he accidentally trips on the computer cord, shutting down the PC, which enrages the short-tempered individual who begins raining down strikes on our protagonist. Hobin takes the beating silently while feeling even more pathetic for getting beat up in his own fucking house. However, when Snapper goes too far and screams that the boy is the reason why his mom has cancer, Hobin finally gets triggered and, getting back to his feet, gathering the courage necessary, punches his assailant across the jaw. An all-out brawl ensues, with Hobin using the nearby noodles and Snapper taking help from a pot. Later that night, after Snapper leaves, our protagonist takes a look at the mess in the living room and wonders how much more money it will take to clean up. Filled with self-pity, he eventually goes to sleep and is awoken early the next morning by a call from Snapper, who screams at him to take down the video. At first, the boy is confused, but once he turns the computer back on, he realizes that the camera was still on the previous night, and all of Snapper's fans had seen their fight. Since the video got automatically uploaded, it was now viral across the platform, and the bully had become nothing short of a laughingstock. Hobin feels mortified as well, and is about to delete the video when suddenly he catches sight of how the stream has earned 1 million won due to its viewership. He is speechless and decides to give this a bit more thought. Meanwhile, Snapper is living a nightmare. He has lost all the respect he had at school, and even his attempts to bully a kid are fruitless as he ends up getting beat up once again. Pakugo views him with disgust and actually laughs at his cameraman. After school, he tracks down Hobin and tries to fight the boy again, and after another exhausting brawl, they sit down together on a nearby bench. Snapper suggests that Hobin should start streaming and that he would become his cameraman. Our protagonist is immediately suspicious and inquires what ratio the revenue would be split in, to which he is informed that he would only receive 10%. The old Hobin might have accepted this, but feeling much more confident now, he gets up and leaves. Snapper is desperate to return to his old position of fame, and after much negotiation, agrees to giving 90% of the revenue to Hobin. They strike a deal and decide that their genre of streaming would be to expose Bullies to the rest of the world. Pakugo's first move on Hobin's return to high school is to cash in on the boy's newfound fame. He forces both Hobin and Snapper to stand before his camera while he introduces them to his viewers, which appears to be really fucking awkward. Snapper nudges his partner to go ahead with the plan. Pakugo is about to finish up the stream with his usual offering of gifting a free PC to one lucky subscriber when Hobin suddenly comes forward and announces that this offer is a complete scam, which the streamer is using to bring more fan following. Moreover, he also takes off his shirt and shows off multiple bruises on his back, which he then blames on Pakugo. By now, the commotion has attracted numerous other students who are lining up outside the classroom to observe how this drama would unfold. Just when it seems that Pakugo might explode with rage, he slowly turns around with an evil smile on his face and reveals that his phone had died right before Hobin's big announcement. The boy is taken aback that his master plan is ruined, and even Snapper retreats as he realizes that Pakugo is about to go all out psycho. There is a visible difference between the size and strength of the two students, and it appears to be nothing short of a battle between David and Goliath. However, unlike the popular folktale, the underdog stands no chance as Pakugo rains down strike after strike on the poor boy, each fist filled with anger and resentment. On the bright side, this seems to be all part of their plan, as Snapper is streaming the entire brawl on his phone, and all of their viewers instantly recognize Pakugo and are horrified at this hidden side of him. Normally, Hobin would have just taken the beating silently and moved on, but even after suffering strike after strike, the boy manages to get back to his feet and raise up his fist once again. Pakugo is not used to this show of defiance and triggers our protagonist by bringing up his mother, which forces the boy to charge at the man in a vicious attempt to bring him down. Obviously, the bully is barely hurt, but our hero falls to the ground in defeat. Just when it appears that it might be game over for our boy, he is saved by the intervention of another student who was taking a nap at the back of the class. The noise had woken him up, and he requests them to keep it down, to which Pakugo replies in his usual taunting way. However, as soon as he catches sight of his face and recognizes him as an MMA fighter, Pakugo loses his shit and swiftly apologizes, desperately leaving the classroom like the dogs of hell are behind him. Snapper helps Hobin back up and informs him that his show of defiance was well received by his fan following, many of whom have also been victims to bullying. So although his body is filled with new bruises, he manages to feel content with the job well done. Later that night, Pakugo is still cursing Hobin as he plugs in his phone to charge it for the first time that day. To his horror, he is met with a storm of messages, calling him a range of insults and mentioning how he is now exposed. Turns out that Hobin's stream in the classroom became a viral hit, and the famous streamer is now facing a lot of backlash from his once adoring fans. In an attempt to rescue the situation, he even puts out an apology video, saying sorry for his actions, but to no avail, as the damage has now been done. Overnight, his fame suffers a drastic downturn, and he soon becomes yesterday's news. On the other hand, Snapper is now teaching Hobin on how to earn even more money through their streams. The channel now has a proper name, Viral Hit, and they decide to put in some real work on its development. Since their chosen genre is around fights, he explains that the boy needs to last for at least 3 minutes in a brawl, so that they may include a few advertisements in the video as well, which would contribute to their revenue. A chicken has more muscle than our protagonist, who probably weighs less than a bag of feathers. So that night he begins to research ways to become stronger and last longer in fights. He comes across a channel with 0 subscribers, which is led by a guy in a rooster mask. The video which Hobin watches teaches him how to keep his emotions in check during a brawl, and that he should aim to trigger his opponent, as they would then become an easier target. However, the boy passes off this advice as a potential scam and goes to sleep. The next day, he hands in his resignation at the restaurant, as the part-time job was not paying enough to afford his mother's hospital bills. Surprisingly, Bomi reaches our hero and actually gives him her number so they would stay in contact. This is no fluke, as the two continue texting for the next couple of days, and a permanent blush settles into Hobin's cheeks. He is busy texting the girl in class when Pakugo suddenly shows up in the mood to fight once again. Hobin can tell that his opponent is extremely worked up and decides to test out what he learned from the channel, and closing his eyes, prepares to be hit with the punch. Surprisingly, the strike never makes contact as Pakugo notices Snapper making a video of him and instantly retreats from the room like a coward. Later that day, our hero meets with supposed fans in the street. However, their intentions are anything but positive as they force the boy into a dark alleyway and steal his phone. Snapper tries to intervene, but he is knocked out by a single punch from the muscular guy. On the bright side, though, Snapper manages to stream this entire event as well, and it uploads to Hobin's channel, which has begun to collect a huge fan following in record time. The next step for our protagonist is to track down the thieves, and he does so followed by his loyal cameraman. Snapper is once again streaming as Hobin orders the thieves to return his phone, to which the muscular man gets to his feet and prepares to give the boy a beating of a lifetime. Surprisingly, Hobin does not appear to be fazed as he recalls the words of the Rooster Man, who advised his viewers on first identifying their opponent's primary hand. He also learned that if he purposely makes contact with his assailant's first mid-punch, it would do minimal damage to him. The boy decides to test these techniques out as he pushes his forehead forward to the man's strike, basically headbutting his fist, and miraculously, Hobin appears to be completely fine. Even the thief is shocked at this new approach, as are all of the fans watching the fight unfold through his stream. The thief decides to amp up his power and begins raining down strikes at Hobin, which our protagonist dodges left and right, while the ones that do make contact cause minimal damage. However, even the boy can tell that he will not be able to survive this onslaught for very long, as he only learned one tactic. Fortune seems to favor him as his opponent suddenly comes to a halt and stares at his fists, which have become extremely swollen. Clearly, all that punching against Hobin's forehead has bruised his hands, and he falls to the ground, clutching them in agony. A true David and Goliath story, as our hero emerges victorious from the sprawl, despite his slim chances. Although the hospital bills that are paid after the fight are as much as the revenue they generated from the stream, Snapper is confident that their video is a success. It attracted a huge number of new fans to Hobin's channel, which has now reached a total of 25 million views. Hobin then visits the bank for the best payday he has ever experienced in his short life. He is speechless when he finds out that they have earned a total of 2 million won just through uploading 4 videos on YouTube. Snapper explains that a majority of their money is earned through advertisements included in the upload, and that their revenue is not solely dependent on views. In addition, he also reveals that they are fortunate that none of their videos have been demonetized by the site due to excessive violence, as this is one of the biggest fears for all streamers worldwide. Their conversation is interrupted as both the guys catch sight of Rumi, the famous streamer girl in their class who was once Pakugo's favorite. She spots them as well and instantly begins streaming in an attempt to get Hobin on camera and steal a portion of his fan base. The two boys rush out of the bank and eventually lose track of the girl. Now that he has money to spend on himself, Hobin visits a nearby designer outlet where he is shocked to find out that the price of their tracksuits is no lower than 140,000 yen. He notices that Snapper instantly purchases it, as the boy has always been rich, so has no qualms about spending such a huge amount. Just as Hobin is about to leave the shop, he receives a message from Bomi asking him out, and in a fit of panic, he purchases the expensive tracksuit and wears it on this date. While waiting for Bomi to show up, he realizes that most of the people around can recognize him, and so to fight the awkwardness, he begins streaming. However, he is still not able to shut out the voices of the onlookers who begin bad-mouthing him by calling his videos a hoax. To make matters worse, another YouTuber shows up, and such is his height and attractiveness that he attracts a huge portion of the crowd to himself, pushing Hobin to a corner. Our protagonist is pulled out from the depths of despair by the appearance of Bomi, who refuses the advances from the YouTuber to approach Hobin and lead him away to a nearby cafe. Throughout the date, the boy suffers from a severe inferiority complex, as he overhears a couple at the cafe mention how he and Bomi look like a mismatch, and he silently agrees with them. He had always been a loser academically, physically, and even in sports, so he was bound to feel out of place with an attractive girl such as Bomi. Which is why when she tries to make conversation by asking about his life, she is met with cold, single-worded replies that make their entire conversation awkward. Eventually, Bomi gets to her feet and accuses the boy for showing disinterest in their date, even though his text messages had always been lively and interesting. This seems to shake Hobin out of his kingdom of self-pity, as he tries to explain how she is way out of his league and reveals how he had purposely sat across from her so he could admire her attractive face. This makes Bomi blush, and they leave the cafe side by side. While walking together, the girl receives a call, after which she explains to Hobin that her childhood friend is also nearby and would like to meet up with them. The boy is happy to do so until he finds out that the friend is none other than Mute-song, the MMA fighter in his class. In an attempt to save face, he lies to Bomi that he is friends with the guy as well, but he loses his shit when he shows up and is twice the height of our scrawny protagonist. Bomi smiles and asks Mute-song if he knows Hobin, to which the man views him shrewdly. The boy knows that the gig is up, and any moment now Myeon-song will reveal that he has no idea who Hobin is, and Bomi will find out what a big loser she has gone out on a date with. He prepares himself for the worst, but miraculously the MMA fighter says that they both are in the same class, and all suspicion is averted. Although he does not remember Hobin's name, he is aware that the boy is a new tuber, which is enough introduction. As the trio walk together, the inferiority complex kicks in for our protagonist as he mentally compares himself to Mun-seong. Obviously, any pedestrian who catches sight of them will instantly assume that the MMA fighter and Bomi are dating, while Hobin is just a lousy third wheel. Having been the loser at school for years, he tells himself that this situation is no different and that it is better if he just excuses himself. He informs the other two that his ingrown toenail is beginning to hurt and that he should return home, to which Bomi is visibly upset. But before she can protest, the boy limps away. He has barely walked a few steps before Snapper suddenly appears and pulls him into a nearby alleyway. He had been streaming the entire date, and Hobin's rooting fans were clearly disappointed that he tapped out so soon. His cameraman begins screaming at him for ruining such a cute moment by running away. Hobin tries to explain, but Snapper insists that Bomi is evidently head over heels for him, and he has a big chance to bag the most beautiful girl in the town if he can only muster up the courage to talk to her. This appears to flick something inside of our protagonist's brain as he realizes that his cameraman is right, and as long as Bomi wants him, he can stand a chance against even Mun-seong. He composes himself and returns back to the park. Snapper quietly follows him with an evil smile. His plan to stream Hobin getting rejected by Bomi would attract even more fans, and they might just hit unforeseen heights in terms of revenue generation. Hobin walks up to the table where Bomi and Myeon-song are sitting and explains that he feels much better, which is why he returned. The MMA fighter gets to his feet and reveals that he has training to get to, and as he leaves, he shares a slight side-eye with our protagonist while complimenting his technique against the thief. Hobin is speechless that such a huge mixed martial arts star watches his video and mentally stores this moment in the few victories he has achieved in his life. Now alone on the park bench, anxiety starts to kick in for our boy. He begins running his hands on his thighs vigorously as he tries to come up with the appropriate words to explain his feelings to the girl. After much contemplation, he asks her what her type in guys is, to which she replies, honest guys. He realizes that this is the moment to tell her that he likes her when suddenly he senses Snapper in the bushes nearby. He pulls his cameraman out and is about to scream at him when suddenly he catches sight of his beaten-up face. Hobin immediately gets to his feet, and just in time as his most dreaded enemy, Pak-go, suddenly shows up. The man is clearly pissed after his numerous failures the past month and is out for blood. With a taunting laugh, he informs the boy that he is in for a world of pain. Bomi tries to stick up for her crush, but Pak-go does not have any respect for women either, and directly insults her. This is too much for our hero, as he then challenges the bully to a brawl. He reuses his previous technique by attempting to bring forward his forehead to Pak-go's fist, but the man has already seen his battle against the thieves and came well prepared. He pulls out his strike at the last second and uppercuts the boy right in the jaw instead, which sends Hobin sprawling. Caught by this surprise attack, our protagonist grimaces in pain and swiftly realizes that he is now at a severe disadvantage. He recalls all the times he had remained in the shadows and how he thought this newfound fame would grant him the freedom he craved. But now, in a matter of seconds, the boy is once again reminded that he will remain nothing more than a loser for all eternity. The rain begins to pour down on Hobin after a severe torture session. He can barely move, but even now Pakugo is not quite done. The bully threatens to beat him up even more if he does not apologize, to which Hobin mutters a soft apology. This is not enough for Pakugo, who informs the boy that the apology needs to be done without any pants on, which is the highest form of embarrassment, particularly considering that Bomi is watching them. She tries to save Hobin by slapping Pakugo across the face, and things might have gotten ugly if not for our protagonist, who gets to his feet and undresses. This entire scene is being streamed on Pakugo's channel, which just adds salt to the boy's wounds. At this point, he does not care for the little bit of shame that he has left and is about to take off his underwear as well when suddenly Munseong shows up and beats up Pakugo and his goons. Bomi tries to comfort Hobin, but the boy is not to be consoled, and she is led away by Munseong. This marks a new era in our hero's life, as after that day he stops coming to school and stops returning Bomi's phone calls. He uses his anger and pain to exercise while watching the Rooster Man's videos with utmost concentration. Meanwhile, Pakugo has now returned to his old streaming self, except now his new victim is Snapper. In one particular stream, he is about to take off the boy's pants when suddenly Hobin appears at the classroom door. The bully taunts him for being away for so long, but our hero silently hands Snapper his phone, which is streaming, and informs his viewers that he is about to teach them how to beat up a regular man. After his humiliating defeat in the park, there has been no sign of Hobin at school for a month. He has cut off contact with practically everyone, and even his classmates have begun to notice his absence. The person most affected is Snapper, who is without a job now. So desperate is he for some dough that he even offers his camera services to Rumi, but is turned down. Pakugo has returned to his position as class bully, but his main victim is now Snapper. The boy tries to save himself by saying he had only been tolerating Hobin and was never his friend, but to no avail, as he is now treated as a human punching bag. As he grimaces in pain after taking numerous strikes to the body, even he is disgusted with himself for always kissing up to famous people, which is probably why he pretty much forgot his only friend Hobin. From his position on the ground, Snapper observes Pakugo streaming and is given a reminder of how cruel society can be. A month ago, Pakugo had been the most loathed man on the internet, but he has now returned to his prior stardom, even though his new personality is even more douchey than before. He is now earning more money and has even gathered a group of brainless goons who cheer for him regardless of the occasion. On the other hand, Viral Hit has begun to lose popularity, as there have been no new uploads since Hobin's disappearance. A few loyal fans are still sticking around, but even Snapper knows that the internet has a short memory, and soon enough, the channel will be long forgotten. Meanwhile, Pakugo is now thinking of how to hit 1 million subscribers and comes up with an idea to beat up Hobin once again. He offers Snapper the position of cameraman once again if he is able to force the boy to return to class. This seems too good to be true for Snapper, who rushes to the hospital straight after school. He manages to track down the room where Hobin's mom is admitted, and saying that he is her son's friend, asks her where their house is located. She then writes down the address. But right as Snapper's about to leave, she mentions how Hobin mentions him all the time, and that he has rarely made her son's life much easier. Snapper stops dead in his tracks and realizes that he is about to sell off the one person who he could truly call a friend. He changes his mind and returns to school the next day with a lie that Hobin would not answer the door. Pakugo then unleashes his rage on the boy by beating him mercilessly, as he was about to win 50,000 won if he had defeated Hobin. Just as it seems that there would be no end to this torture, Hobin appears in the doorway. He silently hands over his phone that is streaming to Snapper and approaches the bully with confidence. He uses the same techniques of headbutting his opponent's fist and dodging the attacks, which makes Pakugo erupt into laughter, as he imagines that this would be another walk in the park. After his humiliation, Hobin had sunk into a pool of self-pity. He had lost every ounce of dignity and fame and was at the lowest of the low. However, he knew that crying would not pay his mother's hospital bills, and he mustered up the bit of courage he had left and began watching the rest of the videos by the Rooster Guy from the start. He followed every advice, step for step, beginning with bulking up by drinking protein shakes. Although it resulted in him often throwing up, he stuck to it. He also started doing push-ups regularly and took up swimming to build his stamina. Along with all this, he learned a specific low kick that would inflict instant damage to his opponent, which is his next attack when he faced off against Pakugo. Although it does not visibly hurt him, he does throw him off, as it is a new technique he had never seen the boy use before. Along with all the combat moves, the Rooster Man also taught Hobin to run whenever he feels like he is at a disadvantage. which is what he does as the bully chases him around the classroom. His fans assume that he is chickening away from a fight, but in reality he is waiting for the right moment. It eventually presents itself, and Hobin unleashes a thunderous punch that makes perfect contact with Pakugo's face, instantly knocking him out. His fucking goons try to intervene, but Snapper steps up and protects his good friend. Such a glorious victory is appreciated by even Moonseong, who had woken up from his nap at the back of the class to observe the conflict. Rather than brag and gloat, Hobin actually falls to the ground in tears and screams that all his fans should like and subscribe to his channel, as Viral Hit is now back in business. Since their channel has reached astronomical heights after Hobin's fight against Pakugo, he and Snapper decide that they need to improve the quality of their uploads. For this, they require a professional editor, and they inform their fans of the job opening during a stream. Most of the people who volunteer appear to be weird, strange, awkward, but one particular fan stands out to the two guys. Although their way of typing is old-fashioned, their enthusiasm is clear to see, and Hobin reaches out for an interview. The two boys wait in their class the next day for the applicant to show up. Snapper is hesitant as he says that the person is clearly a middle-aged man, judging from their typing style, and would not be a good fit for their team. However, he cannot be any more wrong, as the applicant turns out to be a turbo-cute junior who has been observing the shooting of Viral Hit's streams ever since its creation. Her name is Gao Lee, and her strange way of talking is due to the fact that she grew up abroad and learned to speak Japanese online. Snapper gets one look at the girl and immediately suffers from a deadly dose of love at first sight. A single touch from her hand has the boy daydreaming of scenarios in which they get married and start a family together. Thankfully, Hobin is a bit more steady-headed and asks for samples of Gaul's work. She has prepared an intro for Viral Hit's opening, which does add something new to the channel. She also highlighted many of the funny comments that pop up during the streams, and she clearly has an eye for detail. Snapper has already approved Gaul's appointment, and after going through her work and seeing her determination firsthand, Hobin also gives his go-ahead. The team of Viral Hit has now extended to 3 members. Meanwhile, Bomi has been keeping a close eye on the restart of the channel and feels devastated that the boy has time to stream, but no time to return her calls. She comes across a crowd who are silently observing an arcade where a guy has beaten up most of the gamers. The head of the arcade approaches the dude and is about to scream at him for the chaos he is creating when he is suddenly knocked out by a straight kick on the midriff. That night, Snapper shows off the guy in the arcade to Hobin. His name is Taejun Seong, and he is a professional Taekwondo fighter who studies at Gangbuk High School. He has been studying Taekwondo from a young age and is greatly skilled in all of the different techniques. Snapper cannot stop himself from laughing because Taekwondo is known to be the most feeble of all fighting forms. But Gayul interrupts him by informing the duo that combat Taekwondo is completely different. Not only is it more physical, but the fighting styles are extremely deadly, particularly the back kick, which results in a surefire knockout. Hobin processes all this information with growing horror, and soon as Snapper explains that Taejun would be the boy's next opponent, he suffers a mini heart attack. Fighting against common goons is acceptable, but taking on a professional Taekwondo fighter is a completely different ballgame. To make matters worse, Taejun does not possess any type of morals either, and is greatly feared throughout the school. He picks on kids randomly by demanding something dear to them, and if they refuse, he starts beating up their friends mercilessly. Nobody has the guts to stand up to him because they know that they will end up with nothing except a one-way ticket to a hospital bed. One evening on his way back home, Taejun is cornered by 3 goons whose friend he had beaten up a couple days back. Their muscles are the size of barrels, and they are clearly used to brawls of every sort. However, the Taekwondo fighter makes short work of them by raining down kicks on every inch of their bodies, which are so swift that they barely have time to react. As is his usual habit, he simply beats up the goons, while the guy who first started the fight watches in horror as his friends are reduced to minced meat. From afar, Snapper is recording the entire fight, and frankly, he is shitting his pants now as well. He had mocked the Taekwondo fighter from simply watching his videos, but obviously in real life, the guy is the real deal. Hobin is even more horrified, and they run away before Taejun finds out he was being recorded. However, his instincts are so strong, as are his skills, and the Taekwondo fighter tracks them down. Both the boys are scared shitless as the guy approaches them and asks why they were making a video of him. To make matters worse, Gaul suddenly shows up as if she is going to save the day, but right as she catches sight of Taejun, she quietly joins the boys in line. Taejun reveals that he knows what Viral Hit is and was under the impression that Hobin had shown up there to fight. However, after seeing how scared they are, he agrees to let them go under the condition that he is given the rights to Viral Hit, as he desperately needs money. When he is met with no reply, he suddenly begins beating up Snapper, relentlessly, who falls to the ground in agony. The situation is starting to get ugly, and Hobin realizes that this is why the man is viewed with such fear back at his school. What is most scary about him is the way he asks for 500 won from his victim right before beating them up. There is no sign of remorse in Taejun's eyes as he unleashes strike after strike on Snapper's immobile, limp body. Hobin watches on helplessly as he mentally visualizes every scenario in which he attacks the Taekwondo fighter, but in all of the situations he is defeated by a single kick. He tries to negotiate with Taejun, but to no avail, and he agrees to forego his YouTube channel if the man lets them go. Even Taejun is surprised that the boy accepted defeat so easily, and after slapping Hobin across the face, he walks away. Snapper is rushed to the hospital, straight after where he is diagnosed with a broken rib. All of his external injuries are bandaged up and he is given his own bed. However, his wounds extend to the mental level, as well as he realizes that months of their hard work would go to waste with Viral Hit being handed over to Taejun. Partly he blames Hobin for giving up so easily and not even bothering to put up a fight, which he tells the boy when he comes to visit him. Our protagonist tries to explain that he has never stood a chance anyways, but Snapper is not to be consoled and Hobin leaves the room. Gaul tries to spend more time with Snapper next, but he requests her to come back another time so that he may rest. After her exit, he breaks down into tears as he realizes that his rage should be directed at himself for not being able to defend himself against Taejun and simply taking the strikes silently. He was humiliated in front of the girl, and now she probably thinks that he is a fucking loser, just like everyone else. Meanwhile, the words of his friend stick to Hobin, and he recalls the last time he felt so helpless, which was when he was embarrassed in front of Bomi. He reminds himself that he's a different person now with a taste for victory, and he would not give up his channel that easily. He pays a call to Taejun at the arcade where he first defeats the Taekwondo fighter at a game and then challenges him to a fight 1 month from that day. The man observes that Hobin is streaming their conversation, and if he refuses, they might think that he is scared. So with an evil smirk, he agrees. The person most affected by this new development is Gaul, who screams at the boy for embarking on this suicide mission. However, Snapper appears to be satisfied and wishes the boy good luck. With a new target in mind, Hobin now restarts his training from none other than his sensei Roosterhead. He is first met with bad news as the teacher informs him that defeating a Taekwondo specialist as a regular person is practically impossible. The back kick technique is lethal, even if it is used on professionals, and the skills possessed by the fighter heavily outweigh those known by a regular person. Hobin begins to sweat profusely as his dream is fading away fast before his very eyes. However, Roosterhead then explains that in a street brawl, a regular fighter might just stand a chance. If their opponent is a Taekwondo specialist whose main technique is centered around kicking, their movement may be affected if the ground is too slippery or there is not enough area to move freely. Hobin mentally fixes a date when it would be sure to rain and already decides that their battle would take place in the narrow alleyway behind his house. He then returns to his old techniques by practicing the low kick and engaging in swimming to build up his stamina. At the pool, he is still watching videos of Roosterhead, who advises him to practice tackling as a special move since Taekwondo users detest such crude movements. To make his body more familiar with the tackling movement, Hobin practices underwater, where the strong water currents make sure that every muscle in his body is stretched to its absolute limit. Our protagonist takes no days off as Snapper and Gaul soon find out when they pay him a visit, and he is locked up in a closet doing pull-ups on the hanger rod. The girl is delighted to see that her senior is also working on his abs, as it would allow him to easily take strikes to his stomach without doubling down in agony. However, she takes it a bit too far by stamping on his stomach, which Snapper views enviously as he silently wishes that he was in Hobin's place. The day of the fight eventually comes up and things are not going to plan for our protagonist. The weather forecast for that day was incorrect and there is no rain for the rest of the day. Hobin begins to panic as he recalls how his master said it would be impossible to defeat a Taekwondo master without affecting their movement. He rushes away somewhere much to the shock of his adoring fans who think that he is giving up. On the contrary, Hobin is actually adapting and grabbing a hose. He tracks down Taejun to the school washroom. He first splashes the man across his face and then sprays water on the bathroom tiles. He then steps forward and challenges the Taekwondo fighter to their brawl right then and there. Taejun smirks and unleashes a deadly right hook that makes contact with Hobin's face, sending the boy flying backwards. Apparently, he has recognized that his kicking abilities have been compromised, but since he is a professional Taekwondo fighter, he is bound to possess a lot more techniques in his locker. Our hero has no time to compose himself before an avalanche of punches begins to rain down on him. A slight pause in the attacks allows him to recover, and getting back to his feet, he delivers a low kick right onto Hoon's calf that clearly injures the guy as he clutches the affected area. Snapper is streaming the fight, and the fans who were double-minded about Hobin's position after initially getting beat up begin to support him once again. Now filled with a newfound confidence, our hero brings up his fist and views Taejun with a small smile. This battle will be legendary. Despite the water on the tiles, Taejun's movement does not appear to be that affected, as he uses his body to adapt to these new circumstances and gradually grows closer to his opponent. Evidently, he is a pro, and years of training have made him ready for such situations, as the watching fans are quick to point out. Moreover, the Taekwondo fighter is also extremely fast, which makes it impossible for Hobin to headbutt any of his punches or even dodge them in time. Using the running away tactic that he used with Pakago is also out of the equation. So our hero decides to switch to an offensive mode and unleashes a low kick that makes pure contact with Taejun's calf. This move catches the man by surprise, but when Hobin repeats the same move over and over again, even his opponent is able to predict it. Dodging the attack, the Taekwondo fighter spots an opening and delivers an uppercut right to the boy's face. Hobin shakes it off and uses the same technique again, which results in the same outcome. Snapper realizes what the streamer is trying to do, and he is proved right when Hobin feigns a kick, which throws Taejun off, and then charges at his opponent, bringing him down with a strong tackle. His month of hard work at the pool perfecting his form pays off as he manages to tackle someone much bigger than himself to the ground. The fans go crazy by this sudden turnover and begin celebrating. Now on top of his opponent, every instinct in Hobin's body is telling him to punch Taejun and get this fight over with. However, Roosterhead had advised him against this and instead taught him a move that would surely put his opponent to bed. Hobin wraps his arm around Taejun's neck and, grabbing his collar, attempts to make him unconscious, just like he had learned. Unfortunately, our protagonist got a bit carried away and forgot to place his feet around the man's body, which is why his technique had no effect on Taejun. In fact, he is watching this entire move with a smile stuck to his face, and once Hobin realizes what he is doing wrong, the Taekwondo fighter gets back to his feet and mocks the boy that this is his first proper fight. Apparently, Taejun had even fallen to the ground on purpose because he wished to pull off the boy's water-resistant shoe. Once he has the shoe in his hand, he puts it on one foot, and it is just as he hoped. He can now kick again. Hobin watches his opponent with bated breath as he recalls how his master said that once the Taekwondo professional regains his kicking abilities, it would be game over. Meanwhile, back at a cafe, Munseong is watching the stream closely as well. He is accompanied by Bomi, who refuses to watch with him as she is still pissed with Hobin, but she cannot help herself and joins her friend when the boy takes down Taejun. However, Munseong closes his phone when the Taekwondo fighter gets back to his feet and informs Bomi that it would be better if she does not watch anymore. Back at the school washroom, Hobin is having a nightmare. At first he felt hopeless that his month of training would now prove to be futile, but Snapper motivates him to get back on his feet and finish the fight. The boy does so and tries to come up with a new set of tactics, but his mind is wiped completely clean by just a single back kick from Taejun. The boy is faced with strike after strike to the point that even Snapper calls out for the end of the brawl, but there is no stopping the Taekwondo fighter, who does not stop until Hobin is completely knocked out. Satisfied that he has won, he turns his back to the unconscious boy and walks over to Snapper to claim his prize of viral hits. He even offers Snapper the job of his cameraman and asks him what type of content they would be making. However, he is cut off by the appearance of Hobin, who has miraculously managed to get back to his feet. All of the push-ups, chin-ups, and exercises he had done had made his stomach strong, and the kick did not do as much damage as it might have previously done. Snapper begs the boy to run away, but our hero has no such thoughts as he puts up his fist and challenges Taejun to continue their fight. The man is only too happy to oblige and unleashes another of his deadly back kicks, but Hobin grabs a hold of the rod on the bathroom stall just in time and pulls himself above, dodging the attack. Then before the Taekwondo fighter can react, the boy launches himself onto his back and, wrapping his arm around his neck, performs a baseball choke. Taejun is unable to move and falls to the ground. He tries to tap out, which is a humiliating way to give up for a fighter. But Hobin is so filled with adrenaline that he can barely sense what is going on around him and does not let go of the choke until 10 seconds have elapsed. By now, the Taekwondo fighter is well and truly knocked out, and our hero has managed to emerge victorious. Viewing Taejun's body, he and Snapper wonder what they should do with it now, but the problem is taken out of their hands as the Taekwondo fighter eventually regains consciousness. He grabs Hobin by the throat, and things might have gotten ugly if our protagonist did not hand over his watch, which had fallen on the washroom floor. Taejun realizes that he was beaten fair and square and silently leaves the bathroom. Our MC then proceeds to act for an advertisement in front of the camera, which is hilarious considering he just had the fight of his life. The video is an instant hit with the viewers, particularly due to the great editing done by Gaul. However, Unbeknownst to our hero, this stream would lead to even more dangerous issues in the future. Bomi remains up to date with all of Hobin's uploads, even watching the advertisements on the videos during her shift at work. During one such instance, she is interrupted by an extremely huge customer who compliments her and asks for her number. Obviously, Bomi rejects him and he leaves, armed with the 30 meals he ordered. His name is manhwa, and his body type perfectly complements his Korean wrestling technique. Such is his strength that he is able to pick up an entire cow carcass with a single hand while watching Viral Hits video on his phone that he is holding with his other hand. Manny is shocked that Taejun has been defeated and closely observes Hobin, wondering what special trait the boy possesses. He is aware that Viral Hit has a large number of subscribers and wonders if they would all rush to his YouTube channel instead if he is able to defeat Hobin. Meanwhile, back at school, Hobin and Snapper discuss how sad Taejun looked when he was beaten, and our protagonist wonders if there is actually a hidden side to the Taekwondo fighter that he does not show to anyone. Snapper reveals that the guy has actually gathered quite a high number of admirers who fell in love with him because of how attractive he looked while he was unconscious. If he starts up a YouTube account, he might just become famous overnight. This news shocks our hero out of his emotions, and he is once again adamant that Taejun got what was coming to him. Meanwhile, back in Gaul's class, she is facing a horrible time due to her strange way of speaking. The bullies first mock her talking style and then record her without consent. Even the girls are in on this and team up with the guys to make her life a living fucking hell. The girls get triggered when they start making fun of Hobin, and she tries to punch them, but the guy easily blocks it without a scratch. Snapper finally shows up to her rescue, but he is beaten down in seconds. Just as one of the guys is about to hit Gaul, Hobin finally appears and takes matters into his own hands. However, even he is not viewed with much fear by the bullies due to his short stature, and they begin to taunt him as well. He tries to imitate Taejun's condescending tone, but they instantly recognize it and poke even more fun at him. He is about to unleash a killer jab at the head of the bullies, but his work is done for him by the appearance of Munseong, whose sheer presence scares away all of the juniors. Once everyone else has gone away, Munseong privately meets with Hobin and advises him to talk to Bomi, as she is sad because she thinks he ghosted her. Hobin does not have the heart to face her after the humiliation she observed with Pakugo, but decides to pluck up some courage and apologize. Back in the courtyard, Snapper and Hobin begin arguing about who messed up more in the classroom. Snapper tries to save face by saying he at least tried to fight against the bullies, while Hobin is of the opinion that such minor thugs should not be entertained. He then goes across to Gaul and assures her that the next time they annoy her, they would be in for a lesson of a lifetime. The girl begins to blush and thinks of how wholesome the guy is, and is unable to wipe the memory of his face all the way up to that night when she texts him. Meanwhile, Manny pays the restaurant where Bomi works another visit and once again views her with his unwavering, creepy gaze. She is unnerved and thanks her lucky stars when he eventually leaves. She barely has a break before the next customer shows up, who is none other than Hobin, who orders the same dessert that the two of them were about to have on their date. However, he is met with only cold replies, as it is clear that Bomi has still not forgiven him. In an attempt to warm her heart, he shows off the different phrases he wrote in his hand, which he planned to use to win her over. This does get a small laugh out of her, but once again she closes off and in a dangerously soft voice asks him about the editor who he has employed. Hobin notices the change in her tone and tries to explain how Gaul is his junior and just a friend. To make matters worse, the girl suddenly appears, much to his shock. Gaul is not here to cause any trouble, however, as she hands over a parcel to Bomi and informs her how much her boy misses her. She then begins an entire dialogue on all the things Hobin would have said if he had the guts, at the end of which the boy is extremely embarrassed but accepts that it is all true. This finally warms up Bomi's heart, as in a soft voice she tells Hobin to text her later. Her work done, Gaul returns home. Unbeknownst to anyone, though, her heart is filled with sadness, and she even kicks an electricity pole on the way back. The next day, Bomi is thrilled that she and Hobin are texting once again. While engrossed in her phone while walking down the street, she is pranked by the same bullies in Gaul's class who recorded her reaction for their YouTube channel. What seems like a harmless trick might just evolve into something much more dangerous as a car suddenly appears speeding directly at the girl. Meanwhile, back at school, Hobin is surprised to find out that the bullies of Gaul's class also make videos on YouTube, and that they have actually managed to rack up 700,000 subscribers just through prank videos. Our hero suggests that they should start making similar content for Viral Hit as well if it actually attracts lots of viewers. but Snapper immediately shuts this idea down. He explains that there is no script for such videos and all their reactions have to be prepared on the spot. As a result, there are high chances that something could go wrong, which would lead to the entire channel getting banned or worse, getting canceled. Even the Bullies are walking an extremely tightrope, and their channel, which goes by the name of Naval Thieves, could eventually be shut down if they mess up their videos. While the trio are discussing the topic, Hobin receives a message from Bomi and begins to blush. However, his smile is wiped off when he finds out that she got into an accident and is now at the hospital. Munseong is already there, and after making sure that her injury is not that severe, he begins asking her what happened. Apparently, after she got pranked and fell off the sidewalk, a car that was headed right towards her managed to brake just in time, and she was saved from any fatal injuries. After her close shave with death, she is horrified to see that instead of helping her, the pranksters are recording her entire reaction and laughing at her. Thankfully, Bomi was able to survive this fearsome encounter with nothing more than a cast on the leg. Hobin suddenly appears and overhears what she says about the prankster group, and it is evident that he is pissed. He texts her that he would be back soon, and after gathering Snapper and Gaul, he sets out to find the naval thieves and give them a lesson of a lifetime. Hobin gets right down to business and searches up another video of his sensei Rooster Guy, which would teach him how to fight against multiple opponents. Such is his dedication that he is busy planning tactics at school, as well when he is interrupted by Snapper, who has noticed the change in his attitude. Clearly the boy has taken personal offense to how Bomi was treated by the naval thieves and wishes to bring them down with his own hands. Meanwhile, the channel of the Bullies has reached new heights. Their viewers do not seem to care about how douchey the group appear to be, just that the content is funny enough to make them laugh. A video on how they pranked a woman in an elevator by a make-believe gangster reaches a couple million views, as does one in which they call the police on their friend who is only fucking smoking. However, while analyzing the content, Snapper notices that most of it is fake. He is able to identify that the woman in the elevator video is an actress who is pretending to be scared by the gangster. Same is the case with the police video where the cops were actually called for a fake emergency and the smoking guy was standing there on purpose. This pisses off Hobin, who is adamant that he would not only beat up the naval thieves but also expose them and bring an end to their YouTube career. The naval thieves are delighted when Rumi volunteers for a video with them. After shooting, the girl mentions how trashy her fans are, to which the leader of the naval thieves, Hyun-sok, agrees with her, further insulting his own subscribers. They then begin discussing viral hit, and Hyun-sok reveals that his next video would be centered around exposing the fighting channel and creating fake rumors about them. Since the naval thieves boast a higher subscriber count, he is not scared of the consequences and rather hopes that it would lead to more fame for the channel. Rumi tries to excuse herself and walk away, but Hyun-sok then pulls out a video of her saying that her subscribers are trashy. But the girl is 2 steps ahead and reveals a video of the guy agreeing with her. Hobin then shows up with his entire group and announces that Rumi was sent by him to reveal what frauds the pranksters are. Our hero appears to have grown a few inches and has a menacing aura around him as he comes closer to Hyun-sok and demands that he delete the video he made of Bomi. Old Roosterhead pulls off his usual tactics by saying that there is no possible way of defeating multiple people as a beginner. Hobin is used to these words by now, as his sensei usually explains a way of winning right after these words. As expected, he then reveals that the essential thing a fighter can have in such a situation is their aura. Roosterhead explains that intimidating your opponents is the first step of victory against them if they outnumber you. Similar to how a praying mantis scares off predators, even if it is half their size, a beginner can achieve victory against multiple opponents if he increases his aura and achieves the upper hand in the fight even before the first strike is made. Which is what Hobin is doing by standing up to Hyun-sok. However, his threatening persona is messed up when his shoe accidentally comes off and reveals insoles that he had inserted to make himself look taller. Realizing that the boy is trying to intimidate them, the naval thieves charge at him, but their strikes are blocked by his usual forehead move. Our protagonist quickly recognizes that his fighting style would not work in such a narrow alleyway, and he rushes to a wider area where the hooligans follow him. Here he gives the two his usual low kick, which strains their calves to the point that they are unable to move. By now, Hyun-suk is already shitting his pants and uses the exercise that Gaol has taken his member hostage to run away. This puts an end to the naval thieves, whose channel begins to suffer from criticism after their pranks are exposed, and they eventually shut down. Meanwhile, Bomi is getting stalked by Manny, and one night when she is stopped by him on the streets, Moon-seong shows up to save her. However, the wrestler proves to be a tougher opponent than expected. Such is Manny's strength that he is able to force Moon-seong to the ground with just a single hand. However, the Taekwondo fighter is no pushover and manages to wrap his feet around the wrestler and break free from his monstrous grasp. Just when it seems that this would prove to be a battle for the ages, the two are interrupted by the appearance of Hobin, who had begun to panic when Bomi had not replied back to him. Manny takes one look at the boy and smashes him into the ground as if he weighs less than nothing. Fortunately, the police then show up and the situation is handled. The next day, Snapper and Gaol uncover the history of the monstrous wrestler that is Hwan Manny. Apparently, he was crowned champion of Sirium, a form of wrestling, at just 18, defeating opponents much stronger and experienced than himself. Along with his wrestling, his part-time hobby is stalking beautiful girls and beating up guys that try to protect them. Hobin is clearly still shaken after his experience with Manny, as he cannot shake away the feeling of being humiliated in front of Bomi once again. To add salt to his wounds, Manny had also uploaded a picture of his unconscious body on his YouTube channel with the title that he had defeated the owner of Viral Hit. Snapper attempts to handle the outburst from their fans by releasing an explanation video, but Hobin wishes to deal with the disrespect with his own two hands. A few days later, Snapper receives a call from our hero, who informs him that he is at the meat market where Manny works and is about to challenge him to a fight. He has attached a camera to his forehead and would be streaming the entire brawl for his viewers. Even his audience calls this a suicide mission, but Hobin is not to be deterred, and after tracking down Manny, he mocks the giant and begins using his mind games. Snapper eventually reaches the meat market where he catches sight of Hobin grabbing Manny's chest, which is supposed to be an intimidation tactic or something. Snapper has already begun streaming with his camera, but worries how his friend will overcome this immovable object in the form of a wrestler. The stream is being watched by all of the subscribers closely, including Taejun, who has taken a deep interest in the boy who had defeated him. For the first time ever, Hobin's sensei Roosterhead has no advice on how a beginner can defeat a professional wrestler, which is why, when Hobin faces off against Manny, instead of being charged with adrenaline, as he usually is, he is filled with regret. He pulls off his signature move of the low kick to Manny's calf, but the wrestler does not even budge, and our protagonist gets hurt instead. Realizing that he is at a clear disadvantage, he initiates the best tactic remaining: running away. He faces Manny and starts running backwards, much to the amusement of the audience. However, despite his immense size, the wrestler is also very fast due to years of training. He charges at our hero, who recognizes his opportunity and unleashes a strike at Manny's face, but once again it yields no damage whatsoever. With a chuckle, he picks up Hobin with just one hand and smashes the boy in the nearby asphalt. This would have meant the end for any other fighter, as our protagonist coughs out blood, but fortunately he was wearing a spine protector, which saves him from much more fatal damage. Now back on his feet, Hobin recalls the Taekwondo training he received from none other than Taejun a couple days back. He had approached his former rival and asked for ways in which he could defeat a wrestler, which is why the boy has now added a new technique to his armory, as Manny soon finds out when he receives a spinning back kick right in the stomach. Miraculously, Hobin has managed to get himself back into the fight. Flashback. After Roosterhead had failed our protagonist for the first time, Hobin is left with no choice but to visit Taejun and ask him for help. However, the Taekwondo fighter has clearly still not forgotten his defeat, as he unleashes a back kick that makes contact with Hobin's stomach, and he gasps out loud. Fortunately, his bag manages to soften the blow, but he still feels the pain. At first, Taejun is against the idea of teaching the boy any of his moves, as he thinks Hobin is using them for a video. But when he explains that it is to defeat a famous wrestler and calls Taekwondo the best, the Taekwondo fighter changes his mind. Apparently, he had been having a tough time funding his dojo because nobody wanted to learn Taekwondo anymore. So hearing someone speak positively about the ancient art filled him with joy, which is how Hobin was able to learn the spinning back kick and unleash it in his battle against Manny. Instead of making contact with the guy's stomach, though, he accidentally kicks the wrestler's balls, as a result of which every person in a 5-mile radius groans with pain. However, not even a deadly strike like that is able to defeat Manny, as the wrestler grabs Hobin and prepares to slam him into the asphalt once again, putting an end to their fight. Our hero begins to panic and starts feeling for something to hold on to as a last resort. He pulls Manny's hair, which comes off, revealing a huge bald spot on the man's head. Manny breaks down in tears, and Hobin soon finds out that he is actually a huge softy at heart. He had always been insecure about his hair and wore a wig so that he could find a girlfriend one day. Our protagonist assures him that he would find love one day and shows off messages of support from his fans who feel bad for the wrestler. After Hobin's supposed victory, he visits his mother at the hospital, where he finds out that her final surgery would cost $20 million. He is sure that he would soon collect such a high amount just through streaming until Snapper and Gaol catch up with him and reveal that their videos have been demonetized, so there would be no revenue for some time. Hobin can barely process what is being explained to him. All he understands is that he will not be earning any money for at least a month, which is exactly the time period after which his mother is supposed to have her surgery. Snapper and Gaol try to comfort him, but to no avail as he leaves the hospital. Desperation brings a man to different lengths, as is seen when Hobin collaborates with none other than Rumi, the fashion queen. He is forced to stoop to such lengths as he needs to earn more money for his mother's surgery. He awkwardly stands next to her in her new video where she purchases lots of branded items, which are hella expensive. Many of her viewers instantly recognize him, mentioning how weird the boy looks when he is not fighting a totally overpowered opponent. As Hobin views every item that Rumi is purchasing, he cannot believe how expensive they are. Moreover, her viewers mainly consist of trolls poking fun at her, which makes our protagonist appreciate his supportive subscribers even more. Meanwhile, Snapper is losing his mind trying to find out why their videos are getting yellow flagged. Usually he would assume that it's because of the violence and cursing, but Gaol has edited most of the scenes out before uploading, and even the regular streams had gotten demonetized. He tries to ask some of the subscribers for help, but is met with ridiculous replies until one follower suggests the name of a content creator who has faced the exact same issue. Back at Rumi's house, Hobin is now shooting a mukbang video, after which he is about to take his leave when he notices that the girl's house is relatively simple, considering the amount of money she wastes on luxury items. Rumi reveals that all of the extra stuff she does are simply for content creation, as the boy soon finds out when she pranks him and records his reaction on camera. Unbeknownst to our hero, Snapper has found the reason why their videos are getting demonetized and is rushing to find him. Snapper's first stop is at a cafe where he is meeting up with a former YouTuber, Churong Neem, who faced the same problem of demonetization that Viral Hit is facing now. Snapper is surprised to see how huge the man is, and is even more shocked when he reveals that he used to eat insects in his video. Apparently, Churong had a mukbang channel where he would try out various cuisines, including creepy crawlies, that attracted a huge following, and he managed to collect 700,000 subscribers. However, it all came to an end when all of his videos got yellow flagged, and despite his best efforts to reclaim them, he was forced to give up the channel entirely. Churong explains that there was no legitimate reason for his channel getting demonetized, and it was all because of someone terrorizing him and trying to steal his fame. Snapper is horrified when the former YouTuber explains that Viral Hit is now bound to go out of business eventually. Meanwhile, with all the shooting over, Hobin receives 300,000 won from Rumi and excuses himself. As he is about to leave, the boy tells Rumi that he is free for any future collaborations she may have in the near future, to which the fashion queen assures him that she would definitely call him. However, when she goes back inside, Rumi smiles evilly and tells herself that Viral Hit would soon stop streaming and their fame would then die down. So there is no point in any future collaborations with Hobin, no matter how badly his mom needs the money. Our protagonist's friends, on the other hand, are hard at work trying to collect the money for his mother's operation, with Gaol fighting with her father for the amount, and Bomi trying to extract her pension fund. Bomi is also visiting Hobin's mother at the hospital frequently, and on one such occasion accidentally leaves her phone in the room, where the mom finds a channel that is posting videos similar to viral hit. Our hero is horrified when he finds out this, and the reason for their demonetization instantly clicks in his head. Hobin, Gaeol, and Snapper meet up and watch the videos of this new channel named Fighting Virtuoso, which is copying the exact type of content that they worked so hard to make. From the bully video to proposing to the girl he likes to even defeating a martial arts expert, all of the videos are plagiarized, which makes it worse. The channel is also uploading regularly. It has managed to rack up a huge number of subscribers and even steal a portion of Viral Hit's viewership. While the other two are filled with rage, Hobin just feels helpless. His plans for bringing his mother back home are fading away fast, and he does not know what to do. To make matters worse, they would not be able to upload videos for the foreseeable future, as Gaeol got her computer stolen while trying to sell it to fund money for the operation. By now, Hobin is on the verge of a mental breakdown and leaves the house without thanking his friends for their kindness. Our hero tries to take a break at the park, but even here he cannot help but watch the videos of Fighting Virtuoso while feeling sorry for himself. Bomi shows up and tries to comfort him, but even she is shunned away. Meanwhile, Snapper tracks down another YouTuber who was forced to give up content creation because of getting demonetized. What makes her story worse is that she was at 1 million subscribers and had given up her job to dedicate her full time to making videos. After a similar channel came up and got her channel yellow flagged, she was unable to earn from content creation anymore and had to give it up entirely. She became depressed and eventually suffered from a mental breakdown. On the other hand, Hobin is stopped in a dark alleyway by none other than the thief of his channel, Fighting Virtuoso, who literally looks like the boy's doppelganger. Fighting Virtuoso approaches Hobin and offers to buy his channel for 30 million. However, our hero is so enraged at the sight of the person who has ruined his life that he charges at him, and his punch is about to land when suddenly he receives an uppercut on the stomach, which makes him fall down. Taking off his glasses, Fighting Virtuoso announces that he does not need to act like a loser when the camera is not recording, so he can now show off his skills completely. Hobin then attempts to kick him in the calf, but his opponent dodges it and unleashes a strategic sequence of blows that makes perfect contact with our hero's body. Hobin begins to cough out blood, and having lost all belief in himself, he falls to his knees in defeat. Fighting Virtuoso then reveals that he is working for an organization which puts YouTubers like him out of business. So it is better that he sells off his channel right now rather than face dire consequences in the future. Hobin can barely talk as he signs the contract by imprinting it with his bloody thumb, after which Fighting Virtuoso takes his leave. Snapper manages to track down his friend in the alleyway and loses his shit when he finds out that Hobin sold off their channel. However, his anger is quickly replaced by comfort as he catches sight of the boy's teary face and realizes that the kid has gone through way too much in the past few days. Sitting by Hobin's side, he reveals that he found a way to get paid for their videos, even if their videos are still demonetized. Apparently, there is an option on YouTube which allows viewers to give donations to content creators for videos they enjoy. Our protagonist is ecstatic at this new development and tries to come up with a new strategy. Although Hobin is still traumatized by meeting with Fighting Virtuoso, he tries to return to his old cheery self by apologizing first to Gaeol for his rude behavior and buying her a new computer with the money he received, then to Bomi, who is concerned about the various bruises on his face. The day of the final signing arrives, and Hobin and Snapper meet up with Fighting Virtuoso. The boy announces that he would not be giving up his channel and prepares himself for a fight by pulling out some strange moves right from a 90s dance floor. At first, Hobin is hesitant in raising his fist, as he still has PTSD from the last time he faced Virtuoso. Eventually, all of his pent-up anger comes to the forefront, and he begins beating up the man with unwavering fist. Rather than supporting our hero, his viewers actually begin to call him out for beating up his opponent, as Virtuoso has fallen to the ground and is acting like a victim. None of Hobin's strikes are even causing any damage, but since Virtuoso is turned away from the camera, he acts as if the boy is attacking him needlessly, and that he is the one being bullied. Virtuoso then gets to his feet and pretends that his followers have given him courage to stand up in the face of adversity, and begins to beat up Hobin. Our protagonist cannot even counter any of the moves without looking like the bad guy. So while he is being punched and beaten, he manages to come up with a way to expose Virtuoso once and for all. He spots an opening and pushes the man against a metal fence while pulling off his shirt, which reveals numerous tattoos and an extremely well-toned body. The audience is shocked because he had always pretended to be a loser in all of his videos, but the exact opposite of that is being revealed now. A few bullies from Virtuoso's school show up and try to pick a fight with him, but now that his true identity has been revealed, he does not hold back and beats the shit out of all the bullies live on camera. Apparently, he is a kickboxer who had to transfer from his old school because he almost killed his teacher for taking away his phone. Virtuoso then turns to Hobin and informs him that it is now his turn. A few days prior to the meeting, Snapper had managed to dig up Virtuoso's real identity, which is Lee Hyun-soo, who is a professional kickboxer. He even manages to find a few videos of the man's fights, but Hobin refuses to take a look at them, opting to focus on his training instead. He managed to find a video on Rooster Guy's channel on how to defeat a kickboxer as a regular person. However, instead of only following the advice that his sensei gives him, our hero meets up with Moonseong at his training for some tips. Moonseong is happy to oblige and teaches the boys some basics of how to face a kickboxer. Hobin is filled with dread when he finds out that none of his usual moves would work on them, as they are extremely quick and can predict any attack that is thrown at them. Moreover, once they get into a rhythm, they are impossible to stop, and all you can do is pray. The Rooster Guy advises along the same lines, but his suggested technique is different to what Moonseong says. Hobin's sensei is of the opinion that the boy should use aerobic dance moves to distract the kickboxer, and when he least expects it, to attack him. Meanwhile, Moonseong's advice is to look for an opening and try to grapple his opponent by digging his thumbs into the guy's armpits. So when he is facing Lee Hyun, he uses both of these techniques in the hope that they would finally grant him an advantage over the kickboxer. However, Lee sees past Hobin's moves and dodges the charging boy while unleashing a strike with his knee that smashes into the boy's ribcage. The situation might have gotten even more ugly if not for the appearance of Taejun, who blocks the next punch from Lee and announces that he is here to rescue Hobin. Clothed in only his pajamas and a rough t-shirt, Taejun approaches Lee Hyun and challenges him to a fight. The kickboxer laughs at his face and makes a joke about how Taejun and Hobin are secretly dating, and that is why he is so concerned for him. However, he instantly shuts up when the Taekwondo fighter raises his left foot at the exact height of Lee Hyun's face and informs him that he would beat his ass with just his left foot. This might have proven to be the most overpowered battle in the entire manga, if not for the interference of Hobin, who can only lisp due to the attack on his mouth. Our hero says that Viral Hit's content revolves around a loser beating up an overpowered opponent, and he does not want that to change. With a smile, he announces that he had only been getting hit for 3 minutes because it was a challenge he received from his fan in return for earning 500,000 won. Even Ha-hoon is horrified at the boy's insanity, but respects his wishes and backs down from the fight. Instead opting to sit at the back and observe, Hobin takes center stage once again, but his strategy has not changed as he continues with his aerobic style of charging at Lee Hyun, who is used to that tactic at this point, and simply front kicks our protagonist right in his midriff. Lee laughs at the techniques that Hobin had learned from Rooster Guy, calling them outdated, which pisses off the boy even more as he refuses to listen to anything against his sensei. His belief in Rooster Guy pays off as Hobin recalls how the teacher had advised him to approach a kickboxer in such a way that he is able to wrap his arms around his body. Lee Hyun, who has always been used to fighting professionally with referees calling a foul for such acts, looks around for some support. He is momentarily shocked, but when he remembers that this is a street fight, he goes straight for the kill with his knee strike, which would have finished off the boy at such close range. This is exactly what Hobin is looking for as he dodges the attack with his aerobic move and then finally manages to smash his elbow against the kickboxer's face that sends blood flying into the air. A few days before the fight, Lee Hyun had informed his boss about the channel Viral Hit and how it has been rapidly growing in popularity. Once he got instructions to buy it and use it as one of the company's money-making channels, he came up with the ultra-ego Fighting Virtuoso and started stealing subscribers. The last bit of the plan was beating up Hobin, and Lee Hyun thought this would be the easiest part of his mission. But boy, was he wrong. Once our protagonist found an opening, he goes completely ape shit on the kickboxer. landing punch after punch and kick after kick on the bloody Lee Hyun until Taejun has to intervene and put an end to the fight. It takes a second for Hobin to return to his senses, and even then he does not believe that he has won until he wears the pings of his fans donating money to him through the Ultra Chat. He reaches the seventh heaven of delight when he finds out that he has earned 5.2 million won just from that one stream through Ultra Chat. The very first thing he does once he receives the money is pay the 2 million to the hospital, which would allow his mother to finally have her surgery done. All of his friends are delighted that he has managed to reach his aim, particularly Gaol, who tracks him down at school to wish congratulations. Unfortunately, due to his fame returning, Rumi has attached herself like a leech to the boy, which pisses off Gaol, especially when she finds out that the medicine she gave Hobin was then given to Rumi. Later that evening, the viral hit members meet up and Snapper reveals that their videos had been yellow flagged because they were reported as copyright content. Apparently, Fighting Virtuoso is a channel run by a much larger organization, which tries to put budding YouTubers out of business. After Lee Hyun's defeat, Hobin has become the organization's primary target. As Hobin returns back to the normal routine of life, he still cannot get over how satisfying the ping sound is when one of his subscribers donate him money. While watching his phone buzz with the notifications one day, he receives a food coupon from a subscriber. He shows off the voucher to Snapper, who explains that our hero will also need to take a companion with him. Their conversation is interrupted by Rumi, who reveals that the coupon is for an extremely expensive sushi restaurant that only the elite visit. The girl starts to get all lovey-dovey with Hobin and tries to pressure him to take her along, with the excuse that all of their subscribers wish to see them together. Gaol, who is not the biggest fan of Rumi, comes to loggerheads with her over who really deserves Hobin's attention. Our protagonist is now stuck with a tough decision to make, and he confides his worries with Bomi. She immediately volunteers to be his +1 and takes it for granted that Hobin would take her with him. However, it turns out that the boy panicked when Rumi kept pressuring him and accidentally said that he had chosen Snapper to be his companion. This news pisses off Bomi, who walks away in a huff. Which is why the two bachelors show up together to the finest restaurant in the city. Their eyes pop out of their sockets when they see how lavish the interior is, and Snapper loses his shit when he finds out their host is none other than Seongjun, a YouTuber culinary star with 5 million subscribers. Apparently, he is a huge fan of viral hits content and wished to speak to Hobin face-to-face about a proposition that he has. Seongjun explains that he has started a business by the name XJ Company, in which numerous YouTubers work together to attract audiences to their channels, and he wants the boy to join them. Since he boasts such a vast network, Seong assures Hobin that his content would never get copyrighted ever again, and he even offers the boy a 100 million signing fee bonus. The two boys can barely believe what they are hearing, but they are suddenly interrupted by the appearance of an unruly Lee Hyun, who is wielding a knife. One of the members of XJ Company, a streaming bodybuilder, is informed that Viral Hit would be joining them. He tells this to his girlfriend, an extremely hyperactive individual with pink hair. She gets excited and forces him to order her an expensive dress, and then asks him if she could meet Hobin. He agrees under the condition that she does not get too close to him. Meanwhile, back at the restaurant, Song approaches Lee Hyun, whose eyes are filled with rage and insanity. The chef's broad frame and extreme height makes the kickboxer look like a child in comparison, and he towers over him. They hold a conversation in a low voice so that our protagonist cannot overhear them. Apparently, Lee Hyun accuses Seong for abandoning him just because of one failed mission and replacing him with Hobin. Seong is not scared in the least and actually asks the man to stab him, as he is well aware that he does not have the balls to commit such an act. Lee Hyun screams out loud in frustration and suddenly charges at Hobin with his knife, but is pulled down by the chef, who asks his two guests to leave and that they would continue their meeting at a better time. Our protagonist, accompanied by his friends, visits a cafe that next day where he is supposed to meet up with Seong. He has decided that he would accept the offer to work together with XJ Company, which has also extended offers to Rumi and Manny, who are also present at the cafe. Manny has reached 30,000 subscribers and now creates content for hair loss. He also appears to have become much happier and does not bear any grudge against Hobin. The room suddenly goes silent by the appearance of an extremely attractive girl with pink hair, who introduces herself as Gaol. But when the boy flirts back, he is smashed into the ground by her jealous boyfriend, and things might have gotten much uglier if Taejun had not shown up. Hobin cannot believe that Gael's boyfriend is beating him up when she was the one who flirted with him first. Taejun and Manny rush to the boy's defense, but even though he is faced by these two massive giants, the boyfriend does not appear to be intimidated in the slightest. Meanwhile, Gael is enjoying the spectacle she created, observing everything with a wide smile on her face. Rumi recognizes her as the owner of One Punch TV and takes this opportunity to record the girl in her string. Moreover, she also takes an embarrassing picture of Gael, which makes the pink-haired streamer go silent. Rumi is extremely manipulative when she wants to be and shows off her cunning side as she psychoanalyzes Gael right to her face, saying that she might enjoy being the center of attention, but deep down she will forever be self-conscious about herself. Gael is speechless and her boyfriend has to intervene by grabbing Rumi's collar, which results in Taejun striking him across the face with his infamous sidekick. The situation would have gotten out of hand, but Gael silently exits the cafe, closely followed by her boyfriend. Everyone gathers around Rumi and demands to know what type of superpower she used on the girl to make her leave. However, Hobin does not join in the celebrations, as he feels embarrassed about being beaten so easily. Meanwhile, on the way back home, Gael's boyfriend also asks what Rumi said to her. Instead of replying to him, she flirts with a group of men sitting at the edge of the road, which forces her boyfriend to beat them up. She is clearly one of the most dangerous members of XJ Company, and Hobin will need to be careful around her. As is proved when our protagonist finds Rumi crying outside her house, apparently, Gael had taken offense to her words and managed to take revenge through her channel. Gael's channel, One Punch TV, revolves around exposing the life of famous people who are scamming their audiences. Her manipulative nature goes hand in hand with her content and has allowed her to gather a huge fan following, which is why when she makes up a story about Rumi, the video goes viral in no time at all. The broadcast starts with her usual cute introduction and is already being watched by 30,000 subscribers. With a microphone in her hand, she reveals that she has found some disgusting secrets about a YouTuber who goes by the name of Rumi. According to her, Rumi used to sell nude videos and has been involved in numerous sex scandals in the past. Moreover, Gael explains that she has also been known to stay with other male YouTubers in their houses while performing illegal activities. The streamer has based all of these assumptions from an anonymous comment and even tries to strengthen her case by calling a mysterious individual on her broadcast to confirm these rumors. After dropping such a huge bomb, she bids her fans farewell and shyly ends the broadcast. Hobin is speechless as he watches a replay of the video. He looks over to the sobbing Rumi, whose tears have spread across the floor. All the fame she has spent the last few months trying to gather is lost in moments. Even the boys of her class look down at her now and insult her to her face. She tries to release an explanation video, but the fans who are watching the stream are extremely unapologetic and call her tears fake. They comment taunting remarks about her supposed illegal activities that pushes the girl even deeper into the pits of depression. Although she is from a middle-class household and does not have the luxurious lifestyle she shows on her channel, she has never resorted to illegal means to make money, which is why Rumi is even more heartbroken over these accusations. Seong reaches out to Gael's boyfriend and reprimands him for messing with one of Hobin's friends, as this may weaken the opportunity the company has of working together with the boy. The boyfriend apologizes, but before he can return back home, Manny shows up in his traditional wrestling costume with the intention of beating up the people who messed with Rumi. Manny Huang had always been bullied in school because of his height and weight. He could barely sit straight on the school chairs that looked like they could snap at any moment. However, none of the taunts ever triggered him, until his love for a girl was joked about. Then he became an absolute monster and unleashed his infinite strength on the bullies. Same is the case with Gaul's boyfriend, who has spread false rumors about Rumi. The girl Manny has a crush on. The wrestler clearly has a height and weight advantage in comparison to the boyfriend, which is why when Manny charges at him, a one-sided fight is imminent. However, it turns out that the boyfriend is a professional boxer, and using his razor-sharp reflexes, he is able to avoid the attacks thrown at him by Manny and suddenly counters with a right jab on his opponent's face. Manny has never faced a professional boxer before and is clearly suffering as the boyfriend lands strike after strike on the wrestler's nose until it is barely recognizable under all the blood. For the first time ever, the mighty Manny falls to the ground in defeat with his face turned to the heavens. His cigarette still alight in his mouth, the boyfriend walks away without a scratch. Meanwhile, Rumi has sunk even deeper into the pits of despair, and this leads her to finding an unlikely companion in Gaol. The junior forces her to eat and cheer up and tries to suggest ideas for her to reclaim her fame. Moreover, Hobin is also trying to clear Rumi's name. He tries to find proof of any illegal activities that the girl might have committed, but comes up with nothing. His work is made easier by the appearance of a bloodied Manny who hands him a camera which contains a confession by the boyfriend that all of the rumors are false. Hobin manages to track down Gayul and pressurizes her to put out a public apology, but the girl is also skilled in boxing and begins beating him up. Gayul suddenly changes back to her kawaii persona, and growing closer to our protagonist informs him that Manny is the one who started the fight with her boyfriend. Since he is the one who instigated the brawl, the viewers would most likely take her side. Moreover, One Punch TV also has 1.2 million subscribers, so obviously her adoring fans would defend her like their lives depended on it, particularly if she sheds a few crocodile tears to emotionally blackmail them. With such a convincing argument, Gayul takes her leave, but not before she strikes Hobin across the face once again that sends him flying across the ground. With all hope lost, our hero turns to the one influential person he knows, Seong Jun. However, even the tycoon of YouTube refuses to help him out as he reveals that One Punch TV is a member of XJ Company, and their 1.2 million subscribers bring in a ton of revenue. So if he was to shut them down, it would result in a loss of profits for the business. Placing his hand on the boy's shoulder, he explains that if Hobin tries to expose Gayul, he would have no choice but to retract his offer of the 100 million. Hobin now has to choose between a shitload of money or his friend Rumi. When he meets up with Gayul's boyfriend the next day, it appears that he has chosen the first option. However, Snapper then takes out his camera, and on live broadcast, our hero begins exposing One Punch TV. Due to days of research, he is able to reveal that the boyfriend was the one who had been commenting rumors about Rumi through an anonymous account. Moreover, they also were responsible for ruining the careers of numerous YouTubers across the years, and it's about time that they get exposed for their crimes. Gayul can barely believe what is happening and tries to rush to the scene of the fight, but is tripped on the way by Gayul, who is clearly pissed. Thank you guys for watching, and look out for part 2 coming out soon.